Kuntz and I were going over our maps together after being prepped with the latest intel on what the enemy was up to. Kuntz pointed to a calendar on the wall, remarking that it was still only October of 1971. I was 18 years old, had flown over 200 missions, and had been there 9 months. With the dry season moving in, the shit would hit the fan. No longer stuck in the torrid mud and swollen rivers of the monsoon season, the enemy would be able to move in with massive amounts of guns, fresh troops, and supplies to find and destroy the Hmong, who are now depleted in ranks after decades of fighting. Smoke from the fires of the camp snaked into the sky, and Hmong music drifted into the mountains as Kuntz and I took off in the Mohawk for our nightly job of hunting enemy trucks and tanks through the jungle canopies of Laos. The enemy moved supplies to South Vietnam along the Ho Chi Minh Trail or against our Hmong brothers in the north. Before long, I was detecting enemy traffic, quickly plotting their positions and radioing the coordinates to the C-130 Spectre flying gunship, the killer of our aerial tag team. The jet black sky was laced with threads of red rain as tracers arched out of the blackened gunship toward the ground. Secondary explosions of white fire added to the fireworks as ammunition, fuel, or the trucks themselves cooked off. In the first hour of the 4-hour shift, we had destroyed over 40 vehicles. The Mohawk's cockpit windows are bubbled out on each side, allowing the pilot and co-pilot to look directly underneath the aircraft. A strange glow in the curved hatch glass caught my attention. I looked down to my side, saw nothing, and then looked straight ahead. My heart jumped out of my chest and leapt into my mouth as I saw a large white vibrating ball streaking at us. I knew it was a large anti-aircraft round, and it might already be too late. I screamed into the intercom, "Break left, AAA!" But Kuntz was busy on the radio. Again, I screamed, "Break left, AAA!" and swung my fist, hitting him hard enough to break his arm. Kuntz jumped and looked up, his eyes transmitting what we both saw, knowing that it was too late. The plane exploded. The next sensations I felt were of the plane spinning wildly out of control, the sounds of metal straining and ripping, clouding my brain. I tried to reach the ejection handle above my head, but couldn't. Then it all went silent. When I came to, I was still in the cockpit in a stand of weeds, shocked I was alive. Panic swept through me. I crawled out, stumbling and falling, struggling to get up the hill and put some distance between me and the enemy. I heard vehicles approaching, so I threw myself to the ground and crawled into a patch of tall grass. I heard voices below. My face was bleeding from cuts and my chest hurt from the impact. I was certain my left hand was broken. Fresh panic washed over me as I heard someone coming up the hill. Strangely, the voices sounded like they were speaking English. Fuck, I thought to myself, someone was yelling out in English? What Americans would be out here in the middle of the Ho Chi Minh Trail and with vehicles? But the voice calling out, "Is anyone here? Are you hurt?" was clearly American. So I sprang up, startling him for a second, and then he asked if I needed help. But before I could answer, he started rattling off a list of other questions. I thought I heard, "What are you doing here?" Well, I thought these guys would know they'd have to be special forces or CIA out here in no man's land. So I answered, "Clues! I'm looking for clues!" Military jargon for the enemy trucks that tried to hide from us in this fucking war. I staggered, dazed, down the hill past the crashed wreckage of the plane. I just wanted to get the hell out of there, thinking, what are they waiting for the shit to hit the fan? I was forced to lie on a stretcher and placed in what looked like an army ambulance. As the door shut, I was still wondering, where's the dust-off chopper? What the hell are these Americans doing driving around here in the middle of fucking Laos with 100,000 of Ho's finest? Pretty pissed off right now. The door shut, and the driver was waved past the police cars flashing their lights into the black sky. I couldn't see the yellow police tape stretched around an accident scene on a rural highway in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't see the crashed motorcycle along the highway or a Jeep smashed up a slight hill. And soon, Passed out, I didn't hear the wail of the siren as the ambulance raced down the dark and deserted country highway, its red and white strobe lights flashing in the night. When my eyes opened, I found myself sitting in a bright medical room facing two police officers talking as they wrote into their notebooks. I began to hear, what does he remember of the accident? I wondered, what accident? I don't remember any accident. Where the hell am I? Instead, I asked, who are you? Where am I? Why are you here? The officer's response was solemn and direct. The gentleman you hit this evening has died. You are being charged with homicide by intoxicated use of a motor vehicle. I saw a calendar on the wall. It wasn't October of 1971. It was October of 2002. And the war that never ends had claimed another civilian casualty along a country road in rural America. Somewhere it went wrong, very wrong. 30 years after returning from Laos, I was sitting in jail. A man had died and 2 families were destroyed. My family would soon be awakened in the middle of the night. My wife and daughters would be told of the horror I had perpetrated. Alone in the holding cell, I just wanted to end it all, to spare them any more sorrow and pain. Instead, I spent the next 3 years, 2 months, and 15 days in state institutions, half the time being denied treatment for a disorder the staff would not believe in. It would take 7 years of shared and solitary misery and despair before I began to hope my own personal war would finally end. Hope that came from fellow veterans who once again decided to not leave a brother behind. A lawyer, himself a Gulf War Marine, would rise to lead my defense. VA doctors, themselves veterans, would testify that I suffered from a severe PTSD flashback. And it would be a jury from a small Midwest community that would find me not guilty by reason of insanity. Our country's first successful defense of combat PTSD. To all of them, I am deeply grateful. I learned from my brothers and sisters that the ultimate enemy operated within me. It took a long time for the powers that be to acknowledge PTSD even existed and what a destructive weapon it could become. But those who had been baptized by fire knew what it was long before it had a name. To know it, I guess you just had to be there. That's why I joined with my brothers and sisters of the shit to organize this place called Dry Hootch. It's where veterans can get peer counseling. It's a place of healing where vets can seek services, look for work, try to heal. But most importantly, it's a place where warriors can sit together and not have to finish a sentence when we can't find words. A place to put our hearts back into our chests. And when we're lucky enough to cross paths with those who have gone on ahead, we listen carefully, because we know they're the ones who can show us the way back.